As you can see, I've used some clamps just to keep this in place, the back wall in place. It was bowing a little bit, which is what happens when you have things that are moist and only made out of cardboard. However, it is now stuck in place really nicely, so I can remove these. And what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be coming along and I'm going to try to finish off this base. I'm still waiting for the miniature, and I want to paint them all together really, so I may as well get this all done, and that means the next step is dry brushing. So this Africa colour, which I've been using a bit for a few projects recently, is really becoming one of my go-tos as my build style develops and changes, which it does. Initially I always use chocolate, which is what you see there, but just bringing in a little bit of a lighter kind of element is actually something that I'm really liking to do. So what I've got is my big dry brush, and I will now come in and very lightly come over, very lightly, make sure I've not got too much on there, very lightly come over and dry brush like this over all the terrain. Now the rocks I will be coming along and painting independently. There we are, that's done. So it just makes it look a little bit more washed out, a little bit more arid and desert-like, which is what I'm looking for. And it also brings out a lot of the texture which we've got. So I may come along with even more, but for now that's good. So what I'm going to look at doing now is working up and building up the two field sides, and I'll be leaving the path basically looking like that. So we're going to do some flocking and we're going to do some dead grass, and it's just going to look really, really manky. So I'll get that together and I'll bring you along when I'm ready. Get another couple of minutes on the Stuka Zufus, and I'm not going to film every single little bit of this build because it will get quite tedious, especially with such small details. It was nice to start it off and show you everything, but I think I'll probably just report in and show the big bits. But I have just spotted something on these instructions which I wanted to highlight in case anyone else is building along. So on panel 1 it says to take item number 30 and join number 1. Now number 1 is fine, number 1 is the wheel, which is here. However, item number 30 is part of the back door. And it's marked on the instructions as 28 and 29. There seems to be a bit of a mistake here. I'm not sure what's missing, because 26 and 27 is correct, but then it looks to me like 28, part 28 has just gone completely missing on the screw, and so it's just jumped ahead. So where it says get the dashboard item number 30, it's actually number 31 on the sprue, which is a bit of a pain. It caused me a little bit of a pause, and I thought I'd just highlight that now in case someone's building along. So as I say, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to be going along and doing this as in brief periods. I'm not going to film everything, and when I've got something to add or something important to say or a particularly large milestone, I'll bring you along and show you how you do it, or show you what it looks like. My plan is to get this first sub-assembly done, and potentially also the top sub-assembly done, and then I will start to think about priming these sections and painting them, because I'm going to do these in sub-assemblies and then put it together at the end, and probably do a little bit more painting once it's glued together. But anyway, that's all to come. This is the first thing I've spotted as a mistake, so there we are, just bear that in mind. Next step for this is the dry brush, which I'm going to do with my Africa paint, which I'm really, really liking to use a lot for these sorts of things at the moment. So we'll take most of the paint off on a paper towel, and then we'll just come along, and what this will do is it will just bring out a little more of a lighter colour, but not too light, so it'll still be a nice dark paint, nice dark brown, and it will also really bring the highlights out across the whole boat. So I'll get that done, and there we are. That, if I zoom in, is looking lovely. So time for a quick update on the model railway preparations. As you can see, we have a hole in the wall now. This was knocked through and it's been plastered and finished off, and I've actually got a board over the other side of it so that no dust, no drafts can get through, because I'm probably not going to use this for several years, but planning ahead is always a good thing. The model railway will eventually go through there into the games room, which is the other side of this, and that will be a much larger layout than this first initial tester. We can also see we've got plasterboard on the walls, so the workmen are working on that at the moment. They've got some joint stripping to do, and then they'll be plastered and painted. The reason I've gone for plasterboard over just plaster is my walls are incredibly hard, and drilling into them causes a lot of dust, and I just don't want to be doing that over the top of my layout, which will be just down here, if I do decide to put something more permanent on the wall above. So I went for plasterboard, and I'm pleased I've done it because it's going to look really, really nice. So yeah, progress is being made. Once they've finished, I've got to, as I say, got to do the joint stripping, got to do the plastering, got to put some sockets on. I'm having a couple of double sockets which will be underneath the layout on this wall, and obviously lights as well. Once that's done, then I'll be able to actually start laying out, putting up the units, working out what other units I want to set to the layout on top of, and then I'll be able to crack on even more. So of course I'll bring you along when we get to the next stage, but I thought just a very quick update now to show you things are going on in the background. It's just not actually model railway related, it's all about preparing the space. So now we come to the detailing of this piece, and you can see that I've gathered together a load of stuff. I've got some serious play crops. I'm going to pull some of these out and I'm going to make them look very sickly. I've got some detachable wheat bushes, which I can make look very dead. I have these dead tufts from Luke Geek Gaming Scenics. I have some dead static grass, also from Luke Scenics. I have some patchy grass from War World Scenics, and I have some kind of very light green grass that I can put down as well. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to run the camera and put some music on, and I'll interject if there's anything to add, and if there isn't, then I won't. Oh, I've also got some, sorry I forgot, at the back here I've also got some rubberised horsehair to use as well. So I'll just get this done, and you can follow along and enjoy the music. Next task to do here is to paint the darker bark colour where the pegs haven't been, or the stakes haven't been sharpened down. So I've got my raw umber, as I like to use, and I'm going to just come in and I'm going to basically dry brushy, not really dry brush, but spread it around quite a lot, so I'm not going to have very much paint on my brush. And we're just going to come in like this, and we're just going to paint down, taking a lot off as we go, just to give the impression of bark, like this. So you can see what I'm trying to do is not overload it, and I am taking it off a lot where I've, oops, caught it then, where I've got a little bit already on. I'm coming back and taking it off when my brush is slightly less loaded, so that it still retains that little bit of a golden tint, which is what I'm looking at achieving on this. So I'll get that done now on this front and back, and then I'll bring you along when it's done. I'll turn the camera back on when it's finished, because it's not focusing very well for some reason, and hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. So yeah, it's a simple technique, doesn't take very long, it'll take me a couple of minutes. So I'll bring you back when it's finished and you can see what it looks like. Well, there you are, that was just another couple of minutes and it's done. I've done both inside and out, so I'm going to let that to dry. And next up we're going to focus on the actual board, which you can see is still warped, which is still really frustrating, but that's life. I'm not sure what I'm going to do about it, so I'm just going to ignore it for now. While we're waiting for that palisade to dry before I start to actually set it in place, which is the next thing, what we're going to do is we're going to look at some foliage. So I don't actually have any real or any modelled coconut trees, because I haven't finished working on those. I was planning a video of those weeks ago and it just has gone by the wayside with how busy I've been. So what I'm going to be doing on this is I'm going to make use of these fake plants which I picked up just at the hardware store, and I think they're going to work fine. So what I'm going to be doing first of all is sticking a bunch of these, maybe 4 or 5 of these type of just the 2 stuck together, as you can see, with hot glue onto here, and then I'll come along and I will add a little bit more ground cover just to cover up the base, and I might even do a little bit of painting on them as well. So I've got my hot glue gun, my cold hot glue gun here, which has some strange kind of thing going on, and so what we're going to do is just put a blob of hot glue on. I really don't get on with hot glue, it annoys me. And then stick that in place there. That's going to be the base one. Oops, I should have taken that out. There we are. So stick the base down in like that. And then when that's gone off, what we'll do is we'll come along with the hot glue gun again. I mean, there are benefits to hot glue, which is how quick it is to use. Put a blob in the middle, and then put our second one in. That'll work fine. So there we are, like that. And what I'll do, as I've said, is once I've done all of these, I will come and build up around the base with some other ground cover. So I'll get the rest of these stuck in, and then I'll bring you along for the next step shortly. I say I don't like hot glue guns, and then I use them all the time, but they are relatively easy to use. So what I'm about to do now, if I haven't put these, I've put these in the wrong place, these clamps. So I'm going to have to shift the clamps a little bit. Maybe just that one at the back there. Let me just get that done. I've clamped this to a couple of particle boards just so that I can try to resolve the warp. Just for now, I'm not sure what I'm going to do long term, but for now it's going to sit on that, frankly. I may end up mounting it to it, I'm not sure. Be a bit stupid, but this is only a display piece. This will never be gamed on. So it might be quite nice to mount it on this. But anyway, that's beside the point and not what I'm here for. So what I'm about to do now is hot glue the palisade into place. And then once that's done, I'm going to come along and I'll do this right now before I go to bed, even though it's late. I want to get it done. And I'm going to just build up the front with some air dry clay, which I will leave to go off overnight, and then I will be ready to paint tomorrow. And at the same time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be coming in here with the air dry clay to build up some trunks at the bottom of these. Well, they're kind of palm trees, aren't they? They're close enough. So we will run a bead of hot glue just along the bottom of these stakes like this. And with that done, we will very, very carefully put it in place, because I don't really want to be having hot glue going everywhere, all over my nice terrain. So, knocked my light. I was careless. I could out of the way for now. There we are. So I think that is going to be fine if I just push that down. This is why I need to do the clay, because my base is not totally flat, and so there's gaps and what have you. But the hot glue is more being put in place to hold it while I put the clay in, and the clay is what will actually end up being what holds it and makes it really secure. But that there will be fine. As I say, what I'll do now is I'll come along with some clay. I'll bring you along for that and show you how I'm going to do it. But that's going to be held in place well enough, I think. I don't need to panic too much. Yeah, that's good enough holding it down. And I'll just go and get the air dry clay, and I'll bring you back in a second. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come along at the base of these plants first of all. And this is going to be a 2-stage or 3-stage process, really. I'm going to put some PVA around the base because, as I keep on saying, clay is not sticky. So while it might stay there and it might look like it's going to work, long term it won't. It will come away. That's just how it is. And I'll do one of these on camera and get the rest done, and then I'll bring you back for the next step, which will be the base around the palisade. So what I've got is some air dry clay, which I'm going to smudge out into a kind of a flat what's it, and then I'm going to push that in around the base here, and the idea is it will both support the greenery but also look a little bit like a tree. So you want to kind of push it up a bit. They're not going to be perfect, they're not going to be what they look like, but they're going to be close enough for me. And then, remembering that the most important thing to have to hand when you're working with air dry clay is a little thing of water, which I've got at the back there. I also have a little sculpting tool, and what I will do is I'll come in and I will just kind of like sculpt some striations, some stripes into it to make it look a little bit more natural and less smoothed. So I'm going to do that on all of these trees, and I'll bring you back when I come to the next step. It won't take me very long, as you can see. That only took a couple of minutes. So yeah, I'll get that done and I'll bring you back in a minute. That did not take me very long. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come along and again do basically the same technique. So I'm going to be putting some PVA glue just so there's something to bind the air dry clay to as we come along. And this may be a little bit fiddly in places, but it'll be fine. So we're just going to do that along there. Take my air dry clay that I've got. Let me just get that a little bit of a better angle for you. There we are. And we'll come in, roll a sausage, slap it in, and then smooth it down. And I will make this look like it has been built up. So it is not supposed to look like a natural bank, because it has been built up when they've made the this palisade. They have built up the rampart in front. So I will again, go away and do this, and I'll bring you back when it's finished to show what it looks like, which will not take me very long, just to make sure that I don't break anything while doing this, which isn't a given with my track record. This is moving around a bit more than I wanted it to as well. Might have been a better idea to have had this bank in and pressed the palisade into it. That might end up, look better. But hey, we are where we are, so I'm going to carry on with this and I'll bring you back when I have finished this process. And there we are. I'll let that go off overnight now. So you can see that I've put some in underneath as well, just at each end, just here and up here as well, so that it's got a little bit of support on both sides. Couldn't get all the way in as much as I wanted to because of my fat fingers, but I am pretty happy with how that's looking in terms of a banked up in front of the palisade. And ultimately this is coming in and coming along quite nicely. It's not that far off. I do still need to paint all the miniatures, but that isn't something I'm too stressed about because I want to do them anyway. Probably the only thing I now need to think about doing is what I'm going to do at the back here, whether I'm going to have some cannonball piles and things like that. So I'll think about that over the next day or two, but I'm going to let that to dry now, and it's very, very close to completed. At the end of work today, I made a little bit more progress on the Stukazuchus. I keep saying that, Stukazuchus, and I thought I'd quickly show you. I'm using a spare hand that I have just to hold it in place, and I've stuck the back doors on, and then inside here I've also stuck the front guide on for the front gun, and I've also made up the mortars, so they're in the base there. I'm not sure how much more I'm going to do before I start to prime. I think there might be another little while before I actually get it to the painting desk. But I'm enjoying this a lot. It's really good fun. The kit isn't great. There's a lot of fit issues, and the moulds aren't brilliant, so these were quite difficult to do, the mortars, because they actually had little knobs, but there were no dents to put the nubs in, so I had to cut the nubs off, and that's a little bit of a pain. But yeah, it's going to be okay. I'll be getting out my filler and doing that before I prime, so I'll bring you along for that, probably show you how I do that. But I'm just going to carry on putting this together, and I'll bring you for the next step. I'll film the next step when I get to it. It is time to start painting up my figures for the Encounter 10x10. So I'm still waiting for the dad. However, I may as well get started on these. I've got the family and I have the pig. So what I'm going to do is just leave the camera running. I'll put some music on. I will try to remember to highlight which colours I'm using, and I'm going to get a little bit of this done this evening. It's quite cold, so I probably won't get much done tonight, but I'm hoping to get a little bit more done tomorrow as well. Need to wrap this up as it's rapidly approaching when I need to actually finish and submit my entry. So yeah, so I'll get these done. I hope you enjoy the following clips, and yeah, thanks for watching. Well, there we are, that's enough for the evening. It is quite cold. I flicked it over to manual focus there because it was just doing my head in a bit, so hopefully that stayed in focus. I'm going to need to do a little bit more on these. Obviously I need to wash that pig down with some pink and some more grey just to make those splotches less stark, and clearly I haven't done any washes yet on these two either, but I'm very pleased with how it looks. And tomorrow that won't take me very long to finish, so I'm going to go and warm up. And I hope that you enjoyed watching that, and yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how they've come out. Right, I've got the fire lit down here now, so it's the next morning. It's still cold, still damp, and yeah, so I'm going to do the washes on these two minis and then they'll be done. So again, I'll pop some music on and you can watch as I just apply the washes. It won't take me very long. Well, there you are, very, very simple, very quick, but I think very effective. There's a little bit of touching up still needed on the baby, which I may do now. I've just noticed, which just goes to show you, however off much you look at something, if you see top of his head, that shiny spot isn't a shiny spot, it's a not painted spot. So I need to pop a little bit of the pink on that and cover that up. But apart from that, I am very happy. I've done a really nice stained kind of apron, so you can see she's hard working, and yeah, that's going to look really good on the diorama. The pig has also settled down some, maybe needs a little bit of a flesh wash on it, but other than that I think that also is perfect. Now I just have to hope that the actual the man who's going to be leading the pig off to slaughter or off to be sacrificed actually turns up in time, hopefully tomorrow. So yeah, a little bit of a wash on this and then we're done. I'll get that done now. This has now gone off, the air dry clay. It's actually gone off for a couple of days, but I've been busy with other things. So what I'm going to come in now and do is add in the same stuff. So this is the mix of PVA and sand from the back bank and grout. And I'm just going to come in, I'm going to paint it over the top. It may take 2 applications because I really want to get rid of all the white. But yeah, so I'll just come along and do this, and when that's done, we won't be far off finished on this part of the build. I am making good progress. I say good progress, I'm making some progress on the soldiers, so on the 2 soldiers that are going to populate this little display to make it a little bit more interesting, because this will just end up being a display piece, I think. So it'll be a board on which some figures can sit. I don't think it's ever going to be playable. Because I'd have to extend it, and that's a whole lot more hassle than it's worth. I'll make a brand new one, but I am making progress on those. So very soon the whole thing will be together. But this is nearly done now. I do also want to do put some more interesting things behind the palisade. So make a tent or something. So I'll do that as well and bring you along for that. But I'm just rambling now. I'm just going to cover all of this with the same. So I will again put some cling film over the top of my pot and save that, and come back and see if I need to do another second coat later, but I'll leave that to dry now. This part of the build is almost entirely done. I've got a little bit more to do on the roof, and obviously need to put the barrier down there for the door. However, I have now painted up these miniatures and they're looking absolutely great. Now I have a delivery waiting for me in town, which I'm going to go and check a bit later on. Which may have the miniature for the man. However, until that arrives, I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to fix this and finish it. One absolutely awesome thing, and this will date for people that know me, that I've just found is that I actually managed to win the Crafter's Choice last time round on this challenge, which was completely and utterly not part of my expectation. I'm doing this for a laugh, not because I think I'm going to win. So I'm very, very pleased that my little dude, the tiny dude going across on his tightrope, managed to win an award. That was just amazing, completely and utterly blew my mind. So that's cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to separate this miniature from its base. Now there's a couple of ways of doing this. One of which is you can use a hobby saw like this to try to separate it. However, I think in this case I'm actually not going to do that all the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to separate the lady. I'm actually going to need to bring this to the edge of the board, so I will get this done and I'll bring you back for the next step, because I'm not going to be able to do this in shot very easily. That's actually proven to be quite hard, even with it pulled right close to me. So let me show you the other method that I normally use. So I'll just zoom in a little bit better. There we are. So what I do is I take my clippers and I just trim off the base where I don't want it. Which then means that you can come in with a file and you can sand down anything that's left over. Now this works well, particularly easily for plastic. It does work for metals as well. You just need to be very careful that you don't accidentally clip off anything you want to keep. But yeah, you can just use your clippers to kind of remove the material you don't want. So I'll get that done and I'll bring you back when it's finished and show you the next step. There you are, that's done. I've separated them all and left a little base which I will now be able to glue down. And to glue this, I am going to literally just use PVA glue. There is no point in trying to use different type of glue. PVA will be sufficient, so we'll put a little dab of PVA glue on the bottom of each of these and then carefully put them in place in the doorway, which is where I want them to be. And then I'll leave that to dry and that will now be perfect. So if you're worried, you can pin, obviously, and if this turns out to not be secure enough, then I will pin. But now we have some population on the board. We just have to hope that Daddy arrives in time. It's been a little while since I've looked at this, mainly due to the fact that we've been having the work done in the games room where this is currently set. And there was lots of dust that was covered in a dust sheet. However, that's now done. I've cleaned up, I've tidied. And you can see I've also finished off my Roman ship, which will be something which will be scatter terrain on here. I just wanted to show that, how well that looks. I think it looks really good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pour probably all of the rest of the resin which I have available to me. So I'm going to mix it up and I will run the camera while I'm doing that, while I'm doing the pour. It might take 2 mixes, I'm not sure, but I'm going to do them. I'll do 1 mix. If it needs more than that, then I'll have to come back later. But I'm just going to get all of the resin down now, let it go off, because then it can be put somewhere, or I can do other parts of the detailing until after Christmas when I buy more resin. So let's get some pouring done. I was very happy today that Daddy arrived. There he is. So what I've done since he's got here is I've primed him. Let me just point a better camera so you can see him a little bit better. I've primed him and I've stuck him to a bit of cardboard just with some PVA just to help me with painting. Now it's not going to be the strongest thing in the world, but it'll be fine. I'm not going to record the painting process because I'm going to do a relatively quick job. But I'll bring you back when it's done. It's night, it's cold, I'm not going to be down here for very long. I'm just going to put the basic colours on now, and then tomorrow morning I will be back to finish because I'm determined that this is going to be done tomorrow. So yeah, just got a few colours on him and I'll show you what it looks like at the end of the evening. This is after about 20 minutes of effort and I'm really pleased with how he's come out. He's obviously got his holes in his boots and he's got his patches in his clothing on the front there, you can see, and on his hood. Yeah, sorry about the bad photography there, it's quite hard to keep it in focus this close in, but yeah, it's pretty cool. It's going to be absolutely perfect for what I'm looking for. And next clip is after I've done the washes as well, so then he's ready to actually go onto the diorama. My microphone was definitely turned on, but it didn't seem to pick up my voice, which is why you are getting voiceover beard. Did an awesome introduction to this, but my microphone wasn't working again after the last clip as well, and so you've lost it all, so you won't hear the erudition and humour that I put it in. Anyway, I've picked up this Santa's Express to go around the Christmas tree for Rosie, not for me honestly. And what I'm going to be doing is making a little bit of a diorama base, because me being me, I'm not going to just put it on the floor and let it run. So yeah, this is what this video is going to be all about and what these clips are. We'll now open the box and we'll have a look and see what's inside. I'm pretty impressed when I open it actually. I read some bad reviews, a couple of them said that it was a bit plasticky. It looked okay to me. It isn't digital, it is analog, but that's okay. It's only a little thing to go around the base of the Christmas tree. So you get a nice pack of track there, and you get the track with the adjoining or the where the power goes in clips, which is nice. It means there's going to be no welding required. It's got a UK socket, but that's fine. We've got plenty of UK stuff, and the actual carriages are really, really cool. These are probably why I picked this one over the alternatives. So you have a pannier engine, loco, and you get 2 little trucks, one of which is the presents, so you can see got a load of presents in a box car, and the other one is a closed car which says Santa's sleigh on it, and that's obviously where Santa is transporting his sleigh, even though it can fly. I'm not sure about that. A little bit odd. Anyway, we need to have the railway, there needs to be a reason for it. And finally here you have the little pannier engine Santa's Express, which is going to drag those 2 trucks after it. So I'm pretty impressed with that. What I'm going to do now is set out the actual oval of track and then start to plan out how I'm going to lay it out. So I'll pop some music on, and I didn't actually record any vocal. This was deliberately me not being recorded after this point, and I hope that you enjoy watching the rest of this video. So it didn't take too long to put the track together, and I also got myself a bit of a diagram, a little bit of a plan. So let me zoom in on that quickly. This is my super duper plan, and it is positioned as it will be. So we're going to have a bridge with arches and then a mountain at the back. So if I zoom back out again so you can see the track layout, what this will mean is that all the way around here will be arched bridges, probably all the way around to about here. The reason I want to have the mountain at the back is because then I will have a little shelf here for the controller to sit on, so that'll be nice and tidy. And I'll probably have the mountain running to here and then bridges all the way around there. Now I'm also thinking that I may very well do a tunnel, maybe just a small tunnel, but I will probably do a tunnel because I think that will look quite cool, and that will be back here somewhere. Probably not where the joiner is, because that'll make it a bit more difficult to work with. But yeah, that's the basic plan. Now, how I'm going to achieve that, initially, 1 second, I have a sheet of my 1 centimetre blue foam, which, as you can see, I'm going to need 2 of them probably to do what I'm planning on doing. The idea will be to have the right of way, the going, cut out in one whole piece as much as I can, so that it has a little bit more structural integrity out of this blue foam. So I might need to get another sheet just to do this last bit, and then I will set that on top of maybe some white foam for the arches and for the back for the cliffs. So that's the idea. Let's see how it works. I'm quite excited about this. I'm going to get going on this as quick as I can. I only have 9 days, as I keep getting told, so I better crack on, and I'll bring you along to show you how I do it as I go. So Daddy is off his little bit of cardboard, and I've also trimmed the little pig so that his feet are no longer on a pudding base. And what we're going to do now, very, very close to finishing this, which is awesome, is I'm going to stick these 2 down. So first of all, we're just going to use some PVA glue again. If it doesn't prove to be strong enough, then I can always upgrade it. I've got time to do that. But this is basically the last couple of tasks I've got. And he is going to be stood right here, right on the edge. Okay, there we are. There's a little spot for him there. There it goes. And then Piggy is going to be the same. So for this one, what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to pour some PVA onto my cardboard, spread it out a bit, and then set Piggy on it to get some PVA on his feet. Like this will be the quickest way to get it on there, and then sit him down. There we go. Maybe a little bit closer. There we are. So if that doesn't prove to be strong enough, like I say, I'll let you know and I'll bring you back, maybe use super glue, but hopefully PVA will be strong enough. So I'll let that dry. The last couple of bits and pieces I want to do, if I just point to where I want to put, I'm going to cut the whole thing off of its base now, because I'm a bit worried that I've actually gone over a little bit, but if I have, then I have. There is allowed to be a little bit of an overhang. I want to put maybe a bush or a tree just here to cover this edge, and I need to put the cover the doorway up. So those are the final 2 steps to do, but I'll do that after these 2 have dried, so I don't risk knocking them over. I have detached this from the wooden base and marked off where the edge of the masking tape is, and as I worried, I have slightly miscalculated, so I am going to be cutting off some of the things that I've stuck on, but it's not too bad. So what I'm going to do now is very, very, very carefully, and maybe even a few more verries, slice down through this like this and attempt to separate down that line. There we are. So that is why I've done that this early and not left it right till the very end when I run out of time, because I have some cracking at the back here, which you can see, which I will be able to fix now with some PVA. But the really good thing is that is not warped at all. So I'm happy with that. So now I can see the extent that I need to complete. I've got a little bit of area here that I want to put a bush, and potentially I'm going to fill that gap, but I might actually just leave that one. I might put it on this side now, which will help to hide that little bit of damage, and then I'm going to put the doorway in, which is going to be like a hanging rag that will be hanging over the door. So we're really, really close to finishing this. I've also got to put some washes on this green stuff. The greenery is way too bright, so I'm just going to grab some brown paint and drop that on just to like dull that down. I'll probably use some Agrax or some Null Oil or something like that just to dull it down. But we're really, really close to this now. Very, very exciting. This is going to be ready early, which is unheard of. I bought these for the lake build, bush bluehend, whatever that means, flowering bushes. And they come with a little kind of like root system, which you can see here. I've pushed it too close, sorry, you can see there. And I think that's going to actually work really well to hide up this, to cover up this area and this damage. And what I've done is I've got a little stick, a little twig from the garden, and just stuck it in so it looks like a dead something or other. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and glue it in place so it doesn't overhang. I'm going to have to shove it right in underneath. But a little bit of PVA, and that will finish that little area off very, very nicely indeed, as you can see. So there we are. So let's just get a little bit of PVA, dob it in, and then slide it in underneath there, and then that bit's done. And all I've got left to do then is a little bit of staining and a little bit of the doorway. So a little bit of PVA there, and we can shove this in. I will leave that to go off, and then when that's dry I'll come and I'll do the doorway and do the staining, and it'll be done. Next up is doing the rag that is going to cover the doorway. So I've got this little bit cut off from an old pair of combats which died, and what we'll do is we'll put a bead of PVA along the top like so, put that over there, and then use some clamps, though maybe I don't need to. Let's see if I can get away without using clamps. I'd rather not clamp it. And just pop it like that, and then if we turn this around you can see that now I may need to put a little bit on the bottom as well actually. Let's just take that off again and put some on the bottom just so that it doesn't gape quite so much. And that now will be a nice doorway behind them that won't show through the light through, and does look a little bit kind of grotty. So I'll drop the camera down, get a better angle, and show you what that looks like now. There we are. So there's a little bit of leaked PVA on the door, but you can see that there is starting to really look quite good and really start to come together. I may need to do a little bit more work on the thatch as well, looking at it from this angle, but I'll just do that the same technique, just put a little bit more of the split twine onto it, and yeah, very, very close to being done. I'll be bringing you back for the next step shortly. Made a little adjustment to where the pig is, and I did my absolute best to film it, but it just didn't come out. But I have actually put the little bit of metal which is being used to drag the pig. As you can see, I've wrapped it around his middle and attached it to Daddy, so that's done. So the final thing that I'm about to do now, once I finish doing Steadicam, is I'm going to use some Agrax Earthshade here, and I'm going to, I was very blurry, I'm going to put this all over the plants to make them less vibrant and look sick. So we're just going to come in here very quickly and simply blacken the plants down like this. And they'll look rotten, and it'll be obvious where it wasn't before that there's a problem with the plants. And I'll also be putting some on the pumpkins. So let's get this done. And there we are, done. The absolutely last process to do now is to paint the edges, so to make the rims black. So I've got some very old black paint here which is all dried. I hope it's going to go on okay, and all I'm going to do now is just come around and cover up all this blue foam that you can see from the front corners. Not worried about it from behind. I'll just come in very carefully and paint this. So I'll get this done, and then I'll leave it all to go off, and then I'll be taking some pretty pictures once it's all dry. I'm very pleased with how this has turned out. I'm pleased that I picked this as an idea. I think it's better than the other one I had about the Greeks. I think that would have just been a bit difficult to pull off in this space, which obviously isn't a reason not to do it, because challenging oneself is fun. But it's better to do something which actually is going to be understandable when you see it. So there we are. Last touch. Very, very pleased with how this looks. And now that really is done. Hello and welcome to Hobby Vlog number 55. This week has been another varied week. I set myself the task of completing 3 out of the 7 active projects. Let's see how well I do. I may actually have started some more instead. So yeah, it's going to be a quick intro, and let's get stuck into the meat of the video. I really hope you enjoy it. It's been a really fun week for me, and I'm sure that will come across in these clips. Well, I didn't quite manage to complete 3. I did complete 2. I got very, very close with another couple. So the oak and iron display board is only needing me really to finish off the sails, which I didn't touch this week at all. I don't know why. I should have done, because that would have been it completed. And the challenge I'm doing with Sigurd Waltenbauer on Instagram is also very, very close. Really, what I need to do is make a tent, and I'm happy with that. I've got 12 more miniatures to paint as well. I'm also very close on the Battle Games Middle Earth, which is one of the projects which is ongoing. Obviously, it doesn't feature at all in this video. But yeah, I have had a very, very productive week. But of course, I've started the painting up the Black Scorpion miniatures. Couldn't think of the name of the company then, and that's another new project. And Santa's Express has landed, so there we are. It never stops, it always churns, but it's great fun, and you can't argue with that. So I'll thank you very much for watching. I'm really pleased that you're joining me on this adventure. I hope that you've enjoyed it. Please drop a comment in the area below. I would love to hear from you. I always do reply to everyone, and I'll close off as I always do by saying, please stay healthy, stay safe, and stay well.